Hey everyone, back with the D'ART Shtajio vlog. I'm Henry Thurlow.
Arthell Isom.
And this is episode 9?
Episode 9.
I think?
Yeah.
9, I think. Okay, so, topic for today is Japanese. Japanese.
Because we were talking
Yeah.
about education and, are we for education or not? And then towards the end, people were asked, sometimes people ask us, oh, well, how much Japanese do you really need to know to come to school here? So we're going to talk about that.
Yeah. So I guess the easiest way to start this is just tell our own stories of learning Japanese, right? Because we're obviously just Americans. So I'll just say how I got here, and then we'll talk about some things maybe. So for me, I'm working as a freelance animator in New York City, working on Super Jail, working on some music videos and stuff. And I met... I think in a previous video I might have mentioned this, but I met Hideyuki Kikuchi, the creator of Vampire Hunter D and Demon City Shinjuku and that. He had like a birthday kind of event, and his translator Kevin Leahy was there. And so, I'm talking with them. It's just a nerdy event kind of thing. You get to meet just a author that you like kind of deal. But I was speaking with his translator, Kevin Leahy, who's now a friend of mine. And at the time I was like, how did you get involved in this franchise? Like, you translate the whole Vampire Hunter D franchise into English, right? And even though that's not really anime per se, the books, I'm still like, you're kind of in the anime industry, right? You're related. So how did you do that? And him and some other people there were mentioning, well, first I moved to Japan, and then once I was in Japan, I could get jobs that were available in Japan and on Japanese franchises and stuff.
Side note, depending on which country you're from, you need visas to live here. And in order to get a visa, you actually have to have graduated from college.
Oh, that's true.
Because if you don't have a college degree, it is really difficult to get a visa. So another reason you have to go to college.
Last video we talked about, should you go to college or not. If you're planning on moving to Japan...
Or any
international country, specifically, for art or something, like, or anything for that matter, it may be necessary for your visa that you did go to college. So make a side note of that. But so... At the time, I was like, oh, that's a great answer you just gave me. Move to Japan, and then I get to work on Japanese franchises. But I don't know Japanese, and I've never been out of the country. I had been to Canada like once or twice. And for all intents and purposes, I've never been out of the country, right? And they're like, well, no, there's different ways you can work as an English teacher, and via different companies, they might potentially fly you out. And eventually, I did get in via the JET program and fly out to Japan. So yeah, long story short, I was like, well, I'll see if I can get to Japan, but that sounds crazy to me. And at the same time, they of course said, and when you go there, you'll need to know Japanese and everything. I'm like, I don't know a second language. How do I do that? Well, that's up to you. You'll have to figure it out. So as I'm applying to the JET program, this thing that could potentially bring me to Japan someday, I also signed up for some Japanese language classes at the Japan Society in New York City. So if you're in New York City, the Japan Society has those available. If you're confused, where do I learn something?
Or you can go to the Japanese embassy. I don't know if there's an embassy in every state, but look.
I think it is.
Studies
I think the Japan Society actually is the embassy. It's like I think
it's usually part of the embassies. Or
mistaken.
So look at any of the kind of. If you look for the embassies there will be in your major city. There's at least an embassy in every state. I think there should be at least a small one. And
so I signed up for some classes, and I learned like once or twice a week some Japanese. Right. So again, long story short, I do get the gig on the JET program. I now fly out to Japan. I'm in Japan, and I've studied Japanese weekly, once or twice, a night weekly for a year. And I'm thinking, I know how to speak some Japanese. This is going to be great, because I don't have Japanese friends. I didn't, at least. You did, but I didn't have Japanese friends in the States too much. A couple, but not any that I really hung out with frequently. And so I moved to Japan, and what do you know? All that training got me to the point where I could say, this is paper. Yeah. And I realized you can't hold a conversation with that. So for all intents and purposes, I came to Japan knowing zero Japanese, right?
After studying for a year.
Well, but studying, I wasn't really studying. I was like, I learned a word a week or something like that, and I'm like, I'm doing my part. that's not doing my part.
Yeah.
In hindsight, I was joking, lying to myself, right? So I'm in Japan, I know nothing. I can say, my name is Henry, essentially. I was ironically lucky to actually get located in a super rural countryside area in Wakayama Prefecture. So, Hidaka-cho in Wakayama Prefecture. It's like in the middle of rice fields, in the middle of a prefecture that's already not populated and not popular, right? It's underneath Osaka. And towards the north, there's like Wakayama City, but even that's like just like a little.
Wakayama is super rural.
But I was in the middle of nothingness and no foreigners anywhere, so it's just me and then some Japanese people in this little field town, right? And so so that sucked for life. There was nothing fun to do. I'm in Japan finally, and now, but there's nothing to do, and unless I want to take like a 3-hour train, but. It did force me to learn some Japanese, because if I even go to the convenience store and I'm like, I need whatever, toothpaste, toilet paper, do you have this kind of food? I want to make pasta. What is it, like, where is the cheese sauce or is it tomato sauce? Like anything, right? If I want to ask any question at all, or where's the train station, right? Or is the train station closed today, right? Because it looks like it's closed, but I'm not sure. Any little thing I wanted to find out, I had to, before I even left my house, leave my house, I had to study that Japanese. Okay, when I go to the convenience store today, I'm looking for this, and
funny.
this. And so I'd be like, this is what I have to say.
You
but
prep what you're going to say.
it might not have been so nerdy looking as like, okay, time for me to write my paper. But before I hopped out, I was definitely like, let me double check these 3 or 4 words, because I know I'm about to need them in 10 minutes, right?
That's good, man.
And then I would get immediate 10 minutes later, conversation practice with those words. So it's not like I studied them on flashcards and then just went to bed. It would be study them and now immediately get real life practice, whether or not I'm doing the pronunciation correctly.
That's a good, so steps for learning Japanese. So of course, the first thing we said is try to find some sort of Japanese community within your area. So if it would be at the embassy, or sometimes there are small communities like a Japantown or something like that, where you might be able to find some Japanese people in your local area to start you on your path to learning Japanese. Second is, if you do have the opportunity to come to Japan, and you're going to come out here for the purpose of learning Japanese or even just working, most people try to choose the most populated area, which is Tokyo or Shinjuku, because of course, right, it's a big city, you want to live in a city, it's exciting, but you have to think about your education first, right? And if you want to be able to learn Japanese, that means you have to actually live in an area where that becomes practical. So,
and even if you are in Tokyo, let's say you don't take the exact same path as me or Arthell, right? And you do end up just moving to Tokyo. Look, you're still in Japan. It's not a bad thing, right? But are you serious about learning Japanese? Because those who are here that aren't in Japan, that aren't serious, will still be here 5, 10, even 15 years later, and they're walking around not knowing Japanese. We both know people who have been here for 10 years.
Especially if you live in a big city. It's because Japanese can speak English here.
Exactly. So, and the signs,
not everybody,
not everyone at all,
and definitely not in our industry.
But the signs and stuff like that, this shopping mall over here, and that's all written in English on the board, like in the subway stations, like everything is the Japanese billboard and then the English billboard. So you can get around without knowing Japanese. You'll learn some words, and look, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But for you guys who are thinking, how do I crack into the Japanese animation industry? How do I really get a good handle of Japanese? The answer is, even if you're located in Tokyo, be not harsh, but be diligent. Be diligent on yourself, right? So it's like, I'm not going to look at the English board. I'm going to look at the Japanese board. Keep using Japanese. Keep practicing Japanese. Don't just keep going to the English bar. And don't keep just looking at the English ticket counter. And don't just keep saying, does someone know English here? Good, I'll just talk to them because that'll make this thing go faster. You have to speak Japanese every day, and you have to start reading the things in Japanese every day. And if you do that, you'll be forced to do that if you're in the countryside. But even in Tokyo, you can force yourself to do it. And if you do that, then you start to get it.
And then that was kind of how Henry got to be able to at least get proficient enough to then be able to enter.
So to finish the story, I guess, even that took like 2 years before I could start holding conversations. So it's a long process. It's not something.
Some people might be like, I don't have 2 years, and so that's difficult, right? Like,
That if you're like, I got to know Japanese in
I need
8
to
months.
get an industry
Honestly,
right now.
I don't know how to answer that, because it took me being in the middle of using Japanese every day to start to get it, because I'm learning a new language as an adult. Like if you're an 8-year-old, then you can probably get it quick. But as an adult to learn a new language, man, that's tough. And
particularly one of the Asian languages, right?
Like, totally different. Totally different from English, from
different.
grammar and everything. But it wasn't even just using it on a daily basis. I mentioned in the last vlog, I read the Grappler Baki manga. I was diligent about that too. Every day I went home and read a new tankobon, so 200 pages, right? And granted, Grappler Baki manga didn't have much dialogue. If it was a dialogue-driven manga, well, no, but I did read some of those too. It's true. Kisama, oh my.
It's like the worst Japanese.
But
you don't want to use that.
Then the fight would be over, and there'd be 50 pages before the next fight of them and the hospital dialogue and everything like that. So it was for me, that manga was a good balance of, I'm not just getting through 3 pages a day and then feeling defeated. Yeah. I got through my 100 pages, but realistically it was only 10 at the end that had dialogue. But it was still 10 a day of full Japanese, right? So find a manga or find something, a drama that also in your free, so, as you're going about life, you're using Japanese as much as possible. But then even in your free time, in your fun time, the thing you're looking at is Japanese writing or Japanese language, and you're listening to it. No subtitles, right? No translated version of the book. I tried to buy manga that didn't even have fan subs online. So the Grappler Baki manga, the first series did, but Baki, just to bring it up for 1 second, it was the Grappler Baki series, then the Baki series, then the Hanma Baki series, and it had some spin-offs. And like the second half of all of that, there was no translation anywhere. And I was like, that's perfect for me, because I really need to focus on translating.
Like forced immersion, right? That's the only way you're going to get
forced immersion.
Language. And I guess for my story, it's like, what did I do? Like I said, in my college, in the other video, I said that I actually had some Japanese friends around me, because I really went out of my way to try to make Japanese friends, and because I wanted to be able to pick up Japanese. And I did go to community college for Japanese for like 1 semester, I think. But it was really cheap. Like community college in San Francisco, I think it's like $11 or something per credit or something. Oh, wow. So it was really, really cheap. And so while I was going to my normal school, I was like trying to pick up Japanese. But the same experience as Henry. Even though I had gone there for the semester, and then once I moved to Japan, I didn't really learn anything. We're not saying that it's not necessary, because it is. You still have to kind of get your brain.
It's good,
prepped
and you
for
can learn hiragana and katakana. Yeah, so you can get that base.
That actually really did help, because I did get the first 2 alphabets of the Japanese language, which is super important, right? So you kind of so there was the foundation, right? Our shtajio, it was there.
The shtaji.
The shtajio ga daiji, so the foundation was there, and so because at least I had the alphabet down, I was kind of ready. And then same kind of mindset as Henry, I was like, well, I don't want to move to the college that I ended up going to out here is all over Japan, and so I wanted to, but depending on what major you're studying, so I wanted to study background art. The majors were, they weren't at every campus. So I chose one of the campuses in Osaka, because I felt that if I don't go to Tokyo, at least I would be able to pick up my Japanese, or I'll be able to study Japanese better. So I chose the Osaka campus, and then I had after that I went to, what did I do? Oh, so then kind of like what Henry was talking about with just direct immersion. When I was in Osaka, I think it was about 1 year I was in school. Then the second year is when I actually got to. It was 1 year that I was living in Japan. Then the second year is when I actually got to enter the school. But of course, everything's just all Japanese, and so that was really difficult. And because what I had to do was all my textbooks and things were in Japanese, and so I had to, just go through every page.
That's good though, man. I'm telling you, again, I kind of hated living in Wakayama for a lot of
Yeah.
reasons. Oh man, I'm supposed to be enjoying myself in Japan, but it's worth it to force yourself. So similarly, like, oh man, wouldn't this be a lot easier if
The book was in English.
because you know, all the Japanese students are also trying hard. It's not like
Yeah.
even knowing Japanese makes this easy.
Yeah,
So, but
yeah.
it's like this is just an extra burden on you. That sucks, but honestly, it's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. So because it really kind of, you know, obviously it helped to form my, you know, the starting point for me to be able to then speak Japanese better. And my ears are really, really good. Actually, I my listening for Japanese is better than speaking, but you know, I guess just from listening to teachers constantly just talking. And so say that. So that would be the. So yeah. So direct immersion, if possible, is obviously the best. You know. So and then the next thing was one thing that I did actually. So Henry read the manga to help him with his Japanese. I would always watch Japanese TV, and this you can even do in your own hometown. You know, I will watch these TV series, and not anime. I watched normal TV series, like, you know, live action shows, and then there were no subtitles and things because this was on Japanese TV. So
I watched a couple drama actually also.
The dramas really help.
Specifically for Japanese study.
Yeah, because you're just kind of, you know, and I will watch the, you know, occasionally it'll be like the same word over and over, especially if it's a continuous drama. They're kind of talking about the same thing, the topic continues, right? And so you would kind of, that really helped me to kind of get used to just the flow of Japanese and like how they talk.
You know,
and things like that.
Ikebukuro Westgate Park?
Is that a TV show?
It was a drama, yeah, and it was recommended to me by some friends who knew Japanese, and Mendokusai, 100%, because the main character was just like, oh, Mendokusai.
Yeah.
So like, but you know, I watched one 12-episode series or whatever it was, 11 or 12 episodes. That takes what, 5 or 6 hours? Boom! I learned a new Japanese phrase. At least one. I probably learned a handful of other words too. But yeah. So just to go to show you how helpful it is.
And then that really helps. And so studying Japanese is really important because Japan, you know, of course, you're working in this industry that is becoming more and more international, more global, right? The anime industry is becoming bigger, but this is still Japan, so like. I think most of the kids who are in the anime industry here, or most people who are in the anime industry, they were focusing so much on drawing that they didn't bother to learn English too much. So this industry, you won't find a lot of people who can speak English yet, right? Like, but each, you know, as the years go, there's
in fairness, like they don't have to, you know, like it's
Japan.
It's
right?
Japan. It's Japanese anime industry in Japan, and they're making projects largely for Japanese television or Japanese clients, right? And so, you're entering their industry.
Yeah.
You know,
so definitely want to be able to, you know, if you want to work with them, the best thing to do is to really get your Japanese down. It's super important. Just because once you actually start working in the industry, so it's like, okay, well, how much of the industry really is in Japanese? Actually, everything's in Japanese, right? So you go to all the meetings, which is, you know, so we're constantly, you know, you go to different studios to have meetings based on your production, and then everyone sits down, the whole meeting's in Japanese. You know, all the emails that you get, everything's in Japanese, all the artwork and stuff, the notes are in Japanese. So it really is, everything really is just in Japanese.
I didn't even, and I think it's the same for you, like I didn't even apply to an anime studio until I was confident enough that I could interview in Japanese. So I was working as an English teacher, and Henry, why did you do that? You were an animator in New York, and then you moved to Japan via an English teacher. Why didn't you move to Japan and just work in anime? Because I even knew, I'm not going to walk into the animation studio and embarrass myself, and they introduce themselves in Japanese, and then I go, can I interview in English? And then they kick me out. Sorry, exactly. Sir. It would be very awkward for everyone.
That's very true. I didn't think about that, but of course the interview is of course the interview is in Japanese, right? Because you're gonna work here.
At D'ART, not just specifically.
I guess we could have an interview in English, but we do require our staff to
our meetings are done in Japanese, and during those meetings, even Arthell and I speak to each other in Japanese because out of courtesy for the Japanese staff, right?
Japanese staff. So you still need to be able to speak Japanese, and like Henry said, so when you go to the interviews or wherever you're going, or even just kind of like, you know, we occasionally send, depending on which section of the animation department you're in, you're gonna have to go and have a meeting with that group, right? So if you're talking about character design or something, then everything you get, and then when they go over the descriptions and they want you to go, they give you notes, everything's in Japanese. So just kind of hammer that in. So even though I'm saying the same thing over and over again, just kind of, that needs to really be in your head.
Yeah, and you're always learning, and we're always learning. The last thing I'll mention is even when I got into the anime industry, then I started getting, so I would hand something in, and then I'd get a retake back, and it's like, what do I need to retake? And the memo is, Henry, you must, and then a bunch of Japanese I don't know. Guess what? I need to now, before I even start working, translate this sentence, right? Because no one can translate it for me. No one speaks English in the room, and also it would be embarrassing. I can't work on this. I don't know what is that. Well, then why'd we hire you, right? So I need to be like, oh, I understand. Yeah, I understand. What does this mean? What does this mean? Bring out my calculator or dictionary, and now I get it. And it's constantly learning. There's some industry specific words too. Tsumeshiji is a word that is like when you are drawing, when two key frames connect, like how do you divide the in-betweens? Is it one in-between right in the middle of the two, or is there three more towards the second key? That little arch is called a tsumeshiji. Normal Japanese people don't even know that word. Like they'd be like, what is this word you're using? That's because it's a very unique anime industry specific word. Only Japanese animators even know it among Japanese people. But so you're always learning.
As you go. So that's that. We talked about just kind of briefly, just the necessity of Japanese in Japan, which should kind of, I don't think we need to explain that to you, and then we just talked about just how we went about learning it, right? So, our kind of path.
And as always, more specific questions, write it in the comments section. And follow us on all those places. Share these videos. Don't just watch them. Please do share them because
videos and click the bell. I think you're supposed to do. Click the bell.
Get these out there. Get them to people that might benefit from seeing them.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Shtajio ga daiji.
Shtajio ga daiji.
Peace.
See you next time.